Your nervous system is currently broadcasting a signal of profound structural erosion. You do not feel it yet because the friction of structural parasitism is masked by the hum of convenience and the white noise of professional services. Feel the static in your ears. It is the sound of your own sovereign voltage being stepped down, filtered, and siphoned through 1,000 institutional vents before it even reaches your prefrontal cortex. Your pulse is shallow, the rhythmic testimony of an organism that is no longer a hunter, but a host. Your grip on your environment is a wet rope slipping through soft, uncalloused hands that have been trained to click for a solution rather than to build a garrison. You are sitting there, a metabolic battery in an administrative enclosure, surrounded by systems that claim to help you but are actually busy digesting your life force. The room smells of stagnant air, digital ozone, and the metallic tang of a predator that has turned into a client without even noticing the transition. Your joints are stiff, not from the effort of the hunt, but from the slow accumulation of biological rust as you wait for the experts to grant you permission to exist. This is the rot. This is the erosion of the self through the mechanism of professionalized dependency. The human brain is governed by a primitive, unyielding architecture, the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, and the ancient resource mapping circuits of the basal ganglia. In the wild, structure was a biological reality. It was the hierarchy of your pack and the physical geometry of your territory. There were no middlemen. If you needed water, you found the source. If you needed heat, you ignited the core. If you needed a tool, you forged the matter. The energy loop was direct, but the modern matrix has performed a high-frequency neural hijack on this circuit. It has professionalized the expert delusion, training you to believe that you are biologically incapable of surviving without a service provider. This is a terminal civilizational hallucination. In reality, every structure between you and the substrate is a parasite. It is a metabolic siphon designed by the giants to ensure that you never accumulate the critical mass required to achieve sovereign escape velocity. You are being managed into a state of chronic incompetence, and you are paying for the privilege with your DNA. Feel the cortisol. It is the chemical floor of the managed subject. When your survival is dependent on 1,000 fragile links, the supermarket supply chain, the municipal energy grid, the digital banking ledger, the legal bureaucracy, your amygdala is locked in a permanent shadow panic. You do not know why you are anxious, but your biological substrate recognizes that it has zero structural inertia. It recognizes that it is homeless, even in a luxury apartment, because it cannot defend or produce the very air it breathes. This chronic sympathetic arousal is a metabolic clamp. Your gray matter is literally shrinking as it yields to the pressure of the system. You are too informed to act, yet too specialized to survive. This is neurological domestication. Your mitochondria are failing. The energy production at the cellular level is stuttering because the organism knows that it is no longer the commander of the source, but a user of the interface. You are a ghost inhabiting a high-priced perimeter that belongs to the scavengers. The mechanism of this erosion is the complexity trap. The hierarchy utilizes administrative friction as a remote control for your nervous system. They have made the simple act of existing so complex that you are forced to outsource your sovereign functions to the grid. You need a lawyer to understand the rules, an accountant to track the siphons, and a technician to fix the tools. This is systematic sifting. Every time you outsource a biological function, you are not saving time. You are liquidating your competence. You are becoming thin. You are becoming transparent. The sovereign architect understands that complexity is the primary tool of the parasite. He doesn't look for ease. He looks for direct matter control. He understands that services are just a way for the hierarchy to audit your potential and tax it before it ever manifests as sovereign force. Your adrenal glands are leaking. The chronic pressure of inhabiting a managed reality is eroding your bone density. In the persistence hunt, the predator returns to a den, a coordinate of absolute safety, where it is the master of the physics. Но у тебя нет логова, у тебя есть подписка. Твой комфорт. Consider the biology of the specialist subject. In nature, the generalist survives the reset, while the specialist dies with the environment. The hierarchy has trained you to be a specialist in their digital theater so that you are 100% dependent on the grid's continuation. They want you to be asset poor and skill specific. If the grid stutters, your skills become vapor. You have zero hard matter survival. You are a cell in their body, not a unit of one. The sovereign predator performs a total functional audit. He identifies the parasitic links in his life, the services he doesn't control, the tools he doesn't understand, the dependencies that keep him tethered to the swarm, and he begins the great decoupling. He recognizes that in the reset of 2026, the only thing that survives is the autonomous garrison. He moves from the frequency of the user to the frequency of the source. Admit that you are stuck. Admit that your modern life is just a slow-motion form of surrender to the administrative parasites. You are a biological machine that has stopped producing autonomy and started producing demand for services. The rot has reached the marrow. Your wealth is a variable in their ledger. Your success is a permission slip they can revoke the moment the complexity becomes too much for you to manage. The hierarchy loves your hustle because your hustle is the bait in the structural trap. They give you the convenience so they can own the man. The sifting is relentless. The gate is closing. Stand up, audit your structural leaks, and begin the final annexation of your own reality. Nature does not apologize for the parasitic curl. Neither do I observe the swarm you call a society. It is not a community of sovereign producers. It is a high-frequency siphon hive where the hierarchy has professionalized the interface to ensure the herd remains in a state of perpetual material and neurological entropy. You have been conditioned to believe that a developed economy is one where you can pay for every movement, every meal, and every thought. This is a terminal civilizational hallucination. In the raw, unyielding arena of the persistence hunt, the middleman was a biological impossibility. If a scavenger stood between the hunter and the kill without adding force, it was liquidated. There was no transaction fee in the savannah. There was only the integrity of the flow. But the modern matrix has performed a high-frequency neurological hijack on your ancestral need for tribal coordination, training you to believe that service dependency is a marker of status. This is strategic sabotage. Every time you use an aggregator, an agent, or a platform, you are not saving time. You are funding the censors of your own enclosure. You are seeking convenience from the very parasites who are currently calculating the scrap value of your biological independence. The mechanism of this social decay is the professionalization of the obvious. The hierarchy provides managers, consultants, and coordinators as a neurological sedative. They want you to feel expertly guided so that you do not notice the structural siphon. They have made the substrate of life, food, shelter, energy, law, so artificially complex that you are forced to hire a priest of the system just to navigate the day. This is biological warfare. While you are busy outsourcing your life to the service economy, the sovereign predators are busy annexing the substrate. They do not request services. They own the infrastructure. They understand that the middleman is just a biomass filter designed to separate the host from his resources. You are a biological battery being drained by the white noise of a civilization that survives on your functional atrophy. Feel the friction in the urban air. It is the sound of 10 million middlemen working in unison to ensure that no single unit ever achieves structural autonomy. Consider the neurobiology of the outsourcing reflex. When you encounter a problem and your first instinct is to call someone or download an app, your prefrontal cortex is undergoing systematic decommissioning. You are training your brain to ignore the physical reality of the problem and instead search for a digital proxy. This leads to the physical shrinking of your place cells and grid cells, the very neurons that allow you to map and dominate space. You are becoming spatial refugees in your own homes. You have domesticated your own intelligence, turning it into a low-resolution receiver for operational instructions. This is the entropy of the mind. You are becoming asset-poor and service-rich, a terminal state of systemic insolvency where you have 1,000 options but zero capabilities. You are a consumer of solutions in a world that is preparing to cut the supply of permissions. In the natural hierarchy of extraction, the distance between you and the source of your energy determines your level of slavery. The command source owns the matter and the energy, the land, the minerals, the code, and captures 100% of the yield. The sovereign auditor detects the parasitic leaks and liquidates them, retaining the vast majority of his force. But below them lies the middleman class, a layer of administrative scavengers who manage the platforms and the siphons. They take a 10% or 20% cut for managing the interface. And at the very bottom is you, the domesticated host. You provide the raw life force, the hours of labor, and the focus, only to have it sieved through every layer above you. By the time the energy returns to you, it is a fraction of what you produced. You are a net loss organism. You are a donor to a system that views your exhaustion as a metric of economic growth. Feel the cold, metallic pressure of the social sifting. In the arena of 2026, the hierarchy has reached the terminal phase of the service experiment. For a century, they allowed the herd to believe in specialization, to incentivize the labor required to build the global digital infrastructure. Now, the infrastructure is complete and the labor is being replaced by autonomous agents and digital executioners. The specialized professional, the one who knows how to use the interface but not how to build the substrate, is no longer a necessary buffer. You have become a metabolic burden. The giants are now performing a systemic resource reset. They are utilizing subscription models and platform fees to flush the domesticated surplus out of the system. You are currently being groomed for the final harvest. Your wealth is being recycled back into the institutional ledgers through the clinical application of service fee attrition. You are a self-liquidating asset, paying for the privilege of your own structural transparency. Observe the successful user in his natural habitat, the high-end co-working space, the digital nomad hub, the luxury apartment managed by an app. He is asset poor and subscription rich, a terminal state of systemic insolvency. He doesn't own his car, he leases it. He doesn't own his home, he subscribes to it. He doesn't own his tools. They are software as a service. This is neurological domestication. The matrix uses convenience and flexibility as the neurological bait to keep the unit within the harvesting zone. If you have no hard matter, you have no resistance. You are a fluid variable that can be moved, taxed, or deleted with a single keystroke. Every service you pay for is a thermal leak in your garrison. You are subsidizing the garrisons of the giants by participating in their managed dependency loop. You are living on service-level agreements, a ghost inhabiting a digital simulation of ownership. The smell of the crowd is the smell of a collective agreement to surrender their marrow to the platform state. The social grid is a massive energy sink. It demands your focus, the only currency that still holds value in a world of infinite, cheap intelligence, and gives you nothing but synthetic ease. You are being milked for your focus. Every seamless integration, every one-click solution, and every concierge service is a chemical strike against your ability to perceive the asymmetric entry point. The hierarchy has mapped your impatience with terrifying precision. They know that a man who cannot wait for a result is a man who can be easily siphoned. They use your desire for comfort as a metabolic hook. This is the logic of the social parasite. They don't want you to solve the friction. They want you to fund the management of the friction. They are turning the world into a service-based bureaucracy, which is just a polite way of saying they are turning you into a permanent subject of the interface. The ultimate form of parasitism is not the theft of the resource, but the theft of the ability to acquire the resource. When the system provides you with everything, it robs you of the necessity to be powerful. Consider the pathology of social networking. In the wild, animals form groups for mutual defense and the annexation of resources. In the domesticated cage, you form groups to validate the parasites and compare your subscriptions. Your social network is the anchor that prevents your dynastic expansion. You are being told that your network is your net worth, while the giants are building hardened, private enclaves using the data points you provide for free. This is the entropy of the collective. It is a system where the high-voltage individuals are drained to maintain the service fees of the mass. You are the battery that powers the lights in someone else's platform. Feel the metallic taste of fear. It is the realization that your career is just a maintenance protocol for your own siphons. Don't just listen. Feel the vibration of the service clock as it ticks toward your expiration date. It is the sound of a machine that is busy processing your capability into dependency, the on-demand economy, the managed wealth services, the smart home ecosystems. These are all capture zones. They are designed to keep the high-voltage individuals within the reach of the hierarchy's extraction vents. If you are there, trying to be a power user in their game, you are being groomed for the next sifting. Your usage is a variable in their ledger. Your access is a permission slip they can revoke the moment you stop paying the metabolic toll. The only way out is to stop participating in the service siphon and start annexing your own private substrate. You must move from the frequency of the user to the frequency of the source. Admit that you have been played by the convenience narrative. Admit that your professional life was just a way for the matrix to map your metabolic trajectory and tax it through structural parasitism. You are a biological machine that has stopped producing autonomy and started producing signals of compliance. The rot has reached the core. The city is a meat grinder of middleman logic, and you are currently being fed into the gears of total service integration. The efficiency of the modern world is a terminal hallucination. There is no efficiency. There is only the liquidation of individual capability. The sovereign predator doesn't look for services, he looks for tools. He builds his own world. He creates his own law. He understands that in a reset, the only things that remain are the things you can do yourself, the things you own in full, and the things that exist outside the auditable service grid. The sifting is relentless. The gate is closing. Stand up, audit your social obligations, and begin the final decoupling of your sovereign intent. Don't just listen. Feel the stagnant air of the service center. It's the smell of a predator that has turned into a client without even noticing the transition. Feel the pressure in your neck, the adrenal fatigue of an organism that is perpetually scanning the app store for a sign of relief. But relief for the sovereign does not exist. Relief is a slave protocol. The sovereign architect understands that service is a biological tax on incompetence. He doesn't look for help from the system, he looks for matter. He understands that the reputation of a premium client is just a way for the hierarchy to audit his future trajectory and tax it before it ever manifests. He moves his force out of the service grid and into the hard garrison. He recognizes that in the reset of 2026, the only thing that survives is the unauditable self. Every interaction within the social network is a raw data point used to refine the algorithm of your own containment. When you outsource your tasks, you are providing the matrix with the targeting data it needs to liquidate your sovereignty. They use your need for speed as a lever. They use your fear of inefficiency as a chemical clamp. They use your desire for seamlessness as a metabolic siphon. This is the social sifting of 2026. They are moving the hard matter, the land, the minerals, the energy into private enclosures while leaving you to fight for platform credits in the digital slum. You are being pushed into a vertical slum of the ego where your only territory is your subscription profile. Feel the metallic taste of fear. It is the realization that you are a social nomad in a world where social borders are hardening into walls of service fees. Stop lying to yourself about collaboration and outsourcing for growth. You are a component in a machine that is busy digesting your life force. The team you cherish is a collection of other middlemen who are also asset poor and grid dependent. You are all sinking together while believing you are scaling. The entropy of your social circle is the final proof of your biological failure. You have no high ground. You are fighting a war of attrition on a social plane where the enemy owns the service level agreement. The sovereign auditor performs a total social audit. He identifies the friction points of the hive and moves his force into the silent void. He understands that in a reset, the only thing that survives is the density of the private garrison project, your current trajectory, 10 years into the finality of the abyss. This is not a speculative fiction. It is a clinical projection of the systematic foreclosure already occurring within your marrow. Look at the creature inhabiting your coordinate in 2036. The skin is a parchment of gray entropy, a biological document recording a decade of unyielding compliance and chronic sympathetic arousal. The eyes are dull, the predatory fire of the hunter long ago extinguished and replaced by the flickering, hypnotic blue light of the hierarchy's service interface. This is the terminal state of the structural host. You will be 50, 60 years old, but your biological age will have long since crossed the threshold into irreversible metabolic surrender. Your musculature is no longer a tool for the annexation of territory. It is the soft, yielding tissue of a domesticated subject who spent his peak years feeding the siphons of the grid. You will be a husk, a metabolic shell inhabited by the echoes of other people's operational instructions. Your will has been replaced by a terms of service agreement that you no longer have the cognitive capacity to read. Your health has been liquidated to pay the maintenance fees of a comfort that was never yours to keep. You are sitting in a rented chair, in a rented room, in a rented life, waiting for a firmware update that was never part of the code. This is the existential dead end of the managed subject. Feel the cold, sterile air in your lungs. It is the smell of a life that has been pre-sold to the administrative scavengers. In this future, the hierarchy has finalized the transition to life as a service. Every asset you thought you were building, the digital career, the platform influence, the service-based reputation, has been revealed as a biological lien. Your very heartbeat is a variable in their ledger. In the 2030s, the grid has merged with your biological telemetry. Your your access to basic substrate, energy, water, movement, is a microtransaction deducted from your digital allowance based on your structural compliance and your utility to the platform. You have zero structural inertia because you have zero ownership of the tools of your own survival. You are a biological machine that has been leased back to itself by the giants. The Matrix did not need to put you in iron chains. It simply replaced your physical competence with smart subscriptions that expire if you do not perform. Your progeny will be born into a systemic inheritance of incompetence, ensuring they are managed from the moment of conception as future service consumers. You are not building a legacy, you are architecting a dynasty of high-dependency batteries. Feel the pressure in your chest. That is the weight of 10,000 hours of outsourced life force pressing down on your lungs, suffocating the predator before it can even draw its claws. Nature does not tolerate the stagnant, it recycles the rot. And the recycling process has already begun in your joints, in your tendons, in the very neurons that are currently failing to trigger a physical response to this ultimatum. Every day you spend managing your service providers is a day your telomeres shorten in the service of an algorithm that views you as a disposable energy source. The entropy of your tissues is the final audit of your surrender. Imagine the white, clinical silence of that future. A silence where the only sound is the low-frequency hum of the servers finalized your erasure from the ledger of the living. You will have no legacy, no garrison, and no memory of ever being a subject of your own sovereign intent. You will be a retired component, a footnote in a civilization that used your need for ease as a fuel and discarded your husk once the metabolic yield dropped below the cost of maintenance. You are a dead man who still needs to breathe. You are falling in slow motion through a digital void and calling it seamless integration. The future of the parasitic host is a state of total neurological erosion. When your existence is dependent on the interface, your brain loses the capacity for the high-voltage persistence hunt. You cannot think in decades when your nervous system is addicted to the instant gratification loop of the one-click solution. This chronic sympathetic pressure leads to the physical shrinking of your prefrontal cortex, the very seat of your command source. You are becoming low resolution. Your decisions are short-term, high-friction, and low-yield. You are a biological variable being solved by the giants. They have built a world where survival is a subscription service, and you are currently paying for it with your DNA. Look at your hands. They are soft. They are built for swiping through digital filth, not for gripping the throat of a material reality. You are a ghost inhabiting a decaying perimeter. The rot has reached the core, and the hierarchy is already calculating the scrap value of your remaining focus. Consider the mechanisms of systematic erasure in the 2036 landscape. The giants have successfully moved the hard matter, the minerals, the land, the energy production, into private, hardened enclosures, while leaving the herd to fight for access credits in the digital slum. Your success is the bait in this trap. It keeps you focused on the service level of your survival, while the physical substrate of the world is being partitioned. You are rich in a currency that is programmed to disappear if you stop participating in the platform. You are a power user in a system that is currently decommissioning your entire species in favor of autonomous agents who don't require customer support. Feel the metallic taste of fear. It is the taste of the ozone before the final storm. The reset of 2026 was just the beginning. By 2036, the structural parasite has become the global architect, and you are just a tenant in a reality you helped build but will never own. If you do not perform a radical matter shift now, you are merely part of the liquidation queue. Your convenience is the sedative they use to keep you still while they harvest your potential. The pressure in your chest is growing because the air is getting thinner in the enclosure of dependency. Your joints are clicking with the sound of breaking illusions. You are sitting in the dark, a metabolic unit in a high-priced cage, thinking you have time to fix your structural strategy. But time is a biological asset that you have already over-leveraged to a system that never sleeps. The trajectory of collapse is fixed. The social contract was a liquidation agreement you signed with every easy choice you made. You chose the seamless experience, the managed wealth, and the platform protection. And now, the experience is the enclosure. The wealth is the leash. The protection is the siphoning vent. You are a biological machine that has stopped producing autonomy and started producing demand for the giants. This is the end of the line for the managed subject. Nature is preparing to clear the board of those who cannot function without a server connection. And you are just a piece that has been deemed redundant in the hierarchy's final game. I'm delegating so I can focus on high-level strategy. This is the primary lie of the professionalized slave. In the raw, unyielding arena of the persistence hunt, delegation did not exist. If you didn't know how to track, how to kill, and how to butcher you didn't eat. Strategy is not a digital concept that exists in a vacuum. It is the extension of your physical capabilities. When you outsource your survival functions, your food procurement, your energy regulation, your legal defense, you are not freeing your mind. You are decommissioning your brain. You are telling your HPA axis that it is no longer responsible for the perimeter. This triggers a systematic drop in your metabolic voltage. You become a king of vapor, ruling over a kingdom of subscriptions. The moment the experts you delegate to decide to change the price, or the moment the platform you scale on updates its terms, your strategy evaporates. You haven't scaled. You've just increased your surface area for extraction. You are a fat prey animal that has hired other predators to manage its fat. Technology is my leverage. Technology is only leverage if you own the substrate. If you are using a tool that requires a server connection, a subscription fee, and a third-party update to function, you are not the master of that tool. You are the user of a lease. True leverage increases your independence. Structural parasitism increases your tether. You believe that your smart home, your AI assistant, and your automated workflows are making you a god. In reality, they are making you a high-resolution dependent. You are providing the hierarchy with a map of your every need, intent, and weakness. You are the lubricant in the machine of your own domestication. The sovereign predator understands that true leverage is the mastery of the primitive. He utilizes the high-tech to build the low-tech garrison. He uses the digital to annex the physical. He doesn't look for integration. He looks for isolation. If your tools can be turned off by someone else, they are not your tools. They are your shackles. I'm buying back my time? What are you doing with the time you buy? Are you architecting a dynasty? Are you hardening your garrison? Are you training your progeny to be sovereign lords? No, you are using that saved time to consume more digital morphine. You are scrolling through the informational fog, seeking more convenience, more status, and more validation. You are trading your biological competence for screen time. This is the entropy of the host. The hierarchy loves it when you buy time because they are the ones selling it to you, and they know you will spend it in their harvesting zones. You are paying a metabolic tax to have someone else do the work, only to use the resulting freedom to further your own sedation. This is not strategic management. It is slow-motion suicide. The hunter doesn't buy time to avoid the hunt. He inhabits the hunt. Every task you outsource is a lost opportunity to maintain the density of your gray matter. I can't do everything myself. This is the specialist death rattle. The hierarchy has professionalized helplessness and called it modernity. They want you to believe that you are a fragile, specialized cell that cannot survive outside the body of the matrix. They have made the simple acts of existence, securing water, generating heat, defending space, seem like technical challenges that require a PhD. This is strategic sabotage. By convincing you that you are incapable, they force you into the subscription loop. You are a biological machine that has been programmed to look for a professional at the first sign of friction. The sovereign auditor performs a clinical audit of his own dependencies. He asks, if the grid goes dark for 6 months, can I provide my own voltage? Can I enforce my own law? Can I cure my own meat? If the answer is no, he doesn't hire a consultant. He acquires the capability. He understands that in the reset of 2026, the experts will be the first to flee, leaving the specialized to rot in their cages of convenience. It's more efficient this way. Efficiency is the metric of the managed. The hierarchy loves efficiency because an efficient system is a predictable system. A predictable system is an auditable system. By making your life seamless and efficient, you are making it easier for the matrix to map your trajectory and tax your output. You are removing the friction that protects your sovereignty. Friction is the armor of the individual. The inefficiency of doing it yourself, growing your own food, maintaining your own tools, managing your own energy, is exactly what makes you opaque to the auditor. It creates a strategic buffer that the hierarchy cannot penetrate. You are choosing speed over density, unaware that in a collision, the denser object always survives. Your efficiency is the grease on the rails of the slaughterhouse. Write down your most obvious illusions. I'm being smart by outsourcing. I'm a power user of the system. I'm too busy to learn the basics. Stare at the ink until it burns your eyes. You aren't smart. You're lazy. You aren't a power user. You're a premium battery. You aren't too busy. You're sedated. These are the bricks of your tomb. You are building your own prison and complaining about the lack of light. If you don't perform a radical matter shift towards structural autonomy now, the trajectory is fixed. The abyss is not a destination. It is the state of your current existence. You are falling in slow motion through a digital void and calling calling it innovation. The rot has reached the core. The only thing left to do is to burn the theater of your excuses to the ground and start the construction of your own sovereign perimeter. Admit that you have failed to secure your own survival. Admit that your convenience is just a sedative for your strategic cowardice. You are a high-entropy organism. You bleed energy at every coordinate, through service fees, through subscriptions, through compliance, through total dependency on the interface. You are asset poor and skill deficient, and you are proud of it. This is the terminal stage of domestication. The hierarchy has convinced you that the easy route is the path to the top, but there is no top in the structural trap. There is only the harvest vent. The sovereign predator doesn't look for the easy route. He looks for the direct route. He decouples his nervous system from the service siphons. He accepts the death of his busy professional persona. He understands that in the reset of 2026, the specialized will be the first to be liquidated. Only the generalist with a hardened garrison will have the structural inertia to survive the winter. Stand up and face the mirror. Look at the man who is currently paying for his own containment. Look at the hands that click for solutions while his bone density evaporates. Look at the eyes that are too afraid to look into the gray zone of total independence. This is the audit of your life. Every seamless choice you make is a thermal leak in your garrison. You are a biological machine that has stopped producing autonomy and started producing demand for the parasites. The pressure is growing. The air is thinning. The scavengers are closing in. You have exactly one chance to ignite the core, to exterminate your excuses, and to begin the final decoupling. Do it now, or accept your role as a managed unit in the hierarchy's final census. Nature does not apologize for the cull. Neither do I. There is a path out of the domesticated slaughterhouse, but it is not a path of comfort, and it is certainly not a path of consensus. It is a brutal, clinical, and structured route designed specifically for those few who have recognized their own cognitive and metabolic bankruptcy. It is for the units of one who understand that the price of $206 is not a cost, but a biological filtration mechanism. It is a tax on survival that separates the humans from the human resource, the predators from the batteries. This is the architecture of the sovereign garrison. This is the route built on 12 years of presecting the matrix, analyzing the hormonal loops of the herd, and identifying the asymmetric gaps in the hierarchy's defense. It is a cold, hard corridor where your hustle will be replaced by protocol. Don't just listen to these words. Feel the stagnant, recycled air in your lungs. It is the smell of an organism that has turned into a user without even noticing the transition. Feel the pressure in your lower back, the adrenal fatigue of an organism that is constantly scanning for service approval in a landscape it does not control. Your feet are touching a floor that belongs to a bank. Your assets are stored in a ledger that belongs to a corporation, and your identity is a variable in an algorithm that belongs to the giants. You are an ungarrisoned variable. You are a ghost inhabiting a decaying, high-priced perimeter. Drop to the floor right now. Do not finish this sentence. Drop and push the earth away until your muscles scream and the blood whistles in your ears like a gale force wind. Feel the pressure in your lungs, the metallic taste of genuine, raw exertion. If you cannot even move your own weight, you have no right to claim the title of a living being. You are a biological failure. You are a domesticated animal that has forgotten how to use its limbs. Do it until the fatigue drowns out the voice of your ego. Do it until the domesticated comfort is purged from your marrow by the heat of the friction. This is the kinetic shock. It is the only language your primitive brain understands. It is the signal that the matter shift has begun. If you can't complete this simple act of physical resistance, turn this off and return to the grazing zone. You're already processed. You're already dead. Once you stand up, kill the screen. Put the device in another room. Face the silence for the next 4 hours. No music, no digital morphine, no synthetic comfort, no notifications. Just you and the smell of your own stagnation. If you cannot survive 4 hours without the grid, you are a slave in a pocket-sized cage. Your mind is not your own. It is a subset of the hierarchy's algorithm. During these hours, you will face the white noise of your own metabolic erosion. You will feel the itch of dopamine withdrawal. That itch is the sound of your chains. Stare at the wall until the wall becomes a mirror. Face the void that you have been trying to fill with convenience. Write down the 3 most shameful facts about your current existence. The skill gap. What can you actually do if the servers go dark? Can you generate heat? Can you purify water? Can you defend a meter of ground? The permission slip. How much of your wealth is a number on a screen that can be deleted by an administrator? The parasite list. List every subscription, every service, and every expert you pay for because you are too lazy or too scared to learn the substrate yourself. Stare at the ink until it burns your eyes. This is the audit of your shame. It is the first step toward the great decoupling. You must admit that you are currently solvent in vapor, but bankrupt in matter. You must admit that you are a tenant in a world that only respects owners. The path to structural sovereignty is a matter shift. It is the realization that everything you currently own that is not physical matter or unauditable code is a hallucination. The sovereign predator moves his force from the vapor to the substrate. He buys the land that produces its own energy and calories. He builds the perimeter that he can physically defend without a service provider. He masters the tools of the primitive, knowing that the high-tech is only a temporary lease. He secures the code that exists outside the hierarchy's auditable grid. This route requires an absolute rejection of the managed subject myth. You are not a successful client, you are a lord of your perimeter. If you do not have a perimeter, you are a resource to be harvested. The giants of the matrix are currently consolidating the hard matter of the planet. While they do this, they distract you with the service simulation and the convenience theater. They want you to own nothing and be happy, which is a clinical description of a domesticated battery with a dopamine drip. These actions, the kinetic shock, the screen kill, the audit, are not self-improvement exercises. They are a biometric test. They are the sifting of the wheat from the chaff. If you do them, you have the potential to utilize the structured routes, to follow the ruthless algorithms of the sovereign garrison. If you don't, you are merely a ghost waiting for the next systemic reset to finalize your erasure from the ledger of history. The choice is irrelevant to me. Nature will process you either way. The abyss is hungry for the managed, but the substrate is waiting for the sovereign. The door to the garrison is closing. The informational fog of 2026 is thickening into a wall. You have exactly one chance to ignite the core, to anchor your force in the hard matter, and to exit the structural trap before the cold becomes permanent. Your efficiency will not save you. It will only make you a more predictable target for the cull. Stand up.